Have you ever wondered where your cat goes when it slips through the cat flap and vanishes for hours? Maybe you've imagined them lounging in sunlit gardens, chasing birds, or wandering through nearby alleys. But what if, just what if, they were living a second life you never knew about? This is the story of Bear and Teddy, two inseparable tabby cat brothers who seem to have everything. A loving home, warm beds by the fire, and doting owners who believed they knew their pets inside and out. But sometimes, the lives we think we understand hide quiet secrets that can only be uncovered by a single extraordinary event. Bear was the larger of the two. He had a gentle soul and an unusual way of speaking to people. He didn't just meow, he greeted everyone with a heartfelt wah-wah sound, as if trying to say something in his own feline language. He was affectionate, always nearby, always engaged. Teddy, the smaller brother, was more reserved but followed Bear's lead in everything. The two were a bonded pair, together from birth, together in everything they did. Each day they followed the same pattern. After breakfast they would curl up by the fireplace, their striped fur almost blending together. Then, without fail, they would vanish through the cat flap and disappear for the day. Scott, their owner, trusted they were exploring the neighbourhood. He didn't question it. Cats just like to wander, he'd say with a shrug. Life was peaceful, predictable, until the day Bear didn't come home. There were no warning signs, no illness, no accidents. One moment he was there, purring softly, rubbing up against Scott's leg, and the next he was gone. His death was sudden and unexplained. The house that once felt full of life now echoed with silence. Scott and his girlfriend were heartbroken, but no one grieved more than Teddy. The cat, who had never known life without his brother, now sat alone by the window every day, eyes searching the garden where they once played. He barely ate. He barely moved. He was waiting for something that would never return. Every morning, just like before, he would slip through the cat flap and disappear. Scott watched him go, torn between sorrow and curiosity. Maybe it helps him cope, his girlfriend whispered one day. Maybe he's looking for Bear. Exactly 2 weeks after Bear's death, something unusual happened. Teddy came home with a small piece of white paper tied around his collar with a bit of string. It wasn't from his owners, and it wasn't random. Scott gently unwrapped the note and unfolded it. The message, written in broken English, was enough to stop his heart. Dear owner, I'm your neighbour in house number 4. I am also your cat's close friend. They come to my room every day, but the big one hasn't come for 2 weeks. Is he okay? I miss him. He is so lovely. I hope he is fine. Scott reread the note 3 times, struggling to absorb the reality. His girlfriend took the note, read it slowly, and looked down at Teddy in stunned silence. You mean to tell me they've been visiting someone? Every day? The realization struck them both at once. Their cats hadn't just been exploring. They had been building a secret relationship with a stranger. They decided to write back. In a note tied gently to Teddy's collar, they explained that Bear had passed away. They thanked her for loving him. They included their email, hoping she might respond. The very next evening, their inbox chimed with a message that would leave both of them in tears. The sender introduced herself as Yuting, a Taiwanese exchange student living in house number 4. She wrote that when she first moved to England, she felt lonely and homesick. She struggled with the language and didn't have many friends. Her apartment was small, and the silence was overwhelming. Then, one day, she heard scratching at her door. When she opened it, 2 beautiful tabby cats were sitting there, looking up at her like they had chosen her. They came every day after that, she wrote. Bear would greet me with that special wah-wah sound. He was my comfort, my friend. He listened when I practiced my English. He sat with me when I cried. He made me feel safe. Bear stretched out on her bed, Teddy curled in a chair, the two cats sitting in sunbeams on her apartment floor. In each one, they looked happy, at home, loved. I called them my study buddies, she wrote. Bear especially helped me practice my English. I would rehearse my presentations to him, and he would sit still and listen as if he understood. He was like an angel to me. She says he gave her strength. In her final lines, Yuting wrote, I thought maybe you had moved away. I've been waiting every day to see his face again. I miss him so much. Scott and his girlfriend invited her to visit. A few days later, Yuting arrived with a bouquet of white flowers in her trembling hands. She was crying before she even stepped inside. They sat together in the living room, where Bear used to warm himself by the fireplace. Yuting shared more stories, about how Bear would put his head on her arm when she cried, how he would curl up beside her on hard days, how he seemed to know exactly when she needed comfort. She showed them videos on her phone. Bear greeting her at the door, curling up beside her textbooks, purring gently in the background of voice memos she had recorded while practicing presentations. He was more than a cat, she said. He was my friend. Scott and his girlfriend listened in awe. Their beloved Bear had lived a second life, one filled with compassion and purpose. He hadn't just brought joy to their home, he had healed someone's heart halfway across the world. In the garden, beneath a small stone marker, Bear had been laid to rest. Yuting knelt by his grave, placed the flowers gently in the soil, and whispered her farewell. They stood there in silence, letting the breeze carry their shared grief. For a moment, it felt like Bear was still there, watching, listening, maybe even purring softly in approval. From that day on, Scott and his girlfriend kept in touch with Yuting. She became part of their extended family. And Teddy, he still visited her apartment every day, carrying on the tradition that he and Bear had started together. Scott would later say that Bear's loss never truly stopped hurting. There were still moments when he caught himself listening for that familiar wah-wah at the door, or glancing toward the fireplace expecting to see two curled-up forms instead of one. But now, the pain was softened by something beautiful. The knowledge that Bear had made a difference in the world, beyond their home, beyond their understanding. That, in his quiet way, he had offered healing to someone who desperately needed it. Bear had been more than a pet. He was a messenger of comfort, a bridge between strangers, a silent proof that kindness travels, even on four paws, and love can be shared in the simplest of ways, like a scratch at the door or a note tied gently to a collar. So, the next time your cat vanishes for the day, just imagine. Who might they be comforting? Who might they be visiting? What lives are they quietly touching while you're not looking? Let us know in the comments. Would you let a stranger into your life if your pet brought them to you? If this story touched your heart, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who could use a reminder that love often finds us when we least expect it. Because sometimes the smallest paws leave the deepest footprints. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to get most interesting information about feline friend